Whenever she's on a live, like hitting steps in.
Linda's a beast.
Right? Holy shit. She's like,
Yeah.
power walking.
Using that walking pad.
There you go. Cool, 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 cool. So everybody wants to learn about squats today? Is that what's going on? Mary and I are actually here for you guys to teach us about them. So this is awkward.
Yeah. We're gonna call on you all, like, what the hell do we do next?
But basically, guys, just so you know, I have always struggled with my squat. I definitely, it's a work in progress for me. So I was really, really excited to do this with Mary. And Mary is going to, like, you know, fix my squat. And we'll talk about some of the things to look for, some of the things that you may have kind of like learned in the past and thought was the way to go, and kind of talk you around that. Right?
Yep.
Cool. Let's do it.
We're ready. Let's make sure we might have to do some camera.
They know what's going on.
Guys, Mary
They know that there's a
came
trying
into
to
my
it's
house
not
and
that way
completely
anymore.
squat rack. So there you have it.
That was the first thing I did. I said, we need to move this.
All right, so good echo, yay, nay.
Good. Y'all can see us, right?
I don't mind doing the nudges. I just don't think they're as
Our
effective.
rack is over here.
I don't know if you'll get a better response than I
Okay.
do.
Somebody
Because I do
needs to be
nudges.
muted there.
Yeah, let me
Also,
work on that.
Just to get like one or two things done.
Somebody's hard at work.
Miranda, mute yourself.
I wanna try to see if it might help.
Is it Miranda? Got Miranda muted. We're good.
Jenna's like, Miranda, mute yourself.
We're good. No worries, Miranda. Looks like you're watching TV or something. Okay, so we're gonna start by going over the takeout, the lift off from the squat rack, because that is just as important as how you perform the actual squat. So we'll get started with that. The first thing you want to do is think about your hand positioning. And on every bar, there are knurlings, which are the indentations in the bar. So you want to use your thumbs to kind of measure your distance from the knurlings and look to get set up the same way each time. For example, so Linda's holding on to the bar there. I would tell her to extend her thumbs out like this, Linda. Yeah. And look to line them up against like the inner knurling. So against the inner line of the bar, line your thumbs up against there. And then find like a distance where you're able to wedge yourself under the bar from there. And that's going to be different for everyone. Some people can go more narrow. Some people need to take it a little bit more wide. But you want the visual with those lines from the bar as to where your thumbs line up from them each time, and do it the same way each time. So let's see, Linda. See, looking at Linda, it looks like her thumbs are off, like they're not lined up here with the knurlings the same. So come back out.
I don't know if you want to bring that camera in there or like move the laptop, Mary. So
Is that better?
I don't know if you might need to actually lift it up so that you can see. So guys, what Mary's talking about is at first, like what we see a lot of people, this is what you see, right? So Mary basically told me, get your thumbs out, right? The knurlings are right here. That's what she's talking about right here. Okay, so you can kind of like feel. So she had me bring my thumbs out, and now I'm coming under the bar. And we'll talk about bar height here in a second, but now go ahead, Mary. What do you want me to do with my hands here?
You want to go ahead and either wrap your thumbs around the bar or go around the outside of it. You can go over with the thumbs or under, whatever is more comfortable for you. I prefer to go over. A lot of people are going to go under. I think generally the more beginner you are with the squat, you're probably going to go under. So if you want to go under, that works. And then from there, just pulling that bar into your body. And we're going to talk about the takeout here now. But if you look at Linda, like she's standing up nice and tall here, like her knees aren't bent. And if she's going to try to take that bar out, she's going to have to come up on her toes just a little bit. So you want to make sure that the bar is at a height where you're getting a soft bend in your knees and lifting up. So you're not having to come up. So Linda is going to lower the bar and we'll show you that proper takeout.
And
what that
remember,
should look
guys, like Mary's saying, this is without weight, and you already saw that was a little bit of struggle to get it up over there. So you want to give yourself as much opportunity as possible. So I've moved that. All right, Mary.
So your knees are bent, and what she's gonna do is she's gonna come up and she's gonna be a little explosive when she lifts up. So come up nice and tall. And let's get back into the position there, Linda. We'll show them one more time. So something you want to do is come back out, get those hands lined up. And when you're doing that, when you get under the bar, you want to think about like wedging yourself under the bar. So go back in again, Linda. And then come back out so you're in the starting position with your hands on the other side. And then from there, get in, and you want to go under the bar there and really pull it into your body, and imagine you're wedging yourself under it, because you want to create a lot of tension on the lift off. You don't want to just like lift the bar up and be standing and be wobbly. The more tension you can create in your lats, in your butt, in your legs, in your core, the lighter the bar is going to feel when you lift it off. So you want a lot of tension there, and you want to be pulling it into your body and then explode up. And when you come up, hold it for just a second. Let the weight settle on your back before stepping back. So hold it for a second there and then step back. And ideally, you're just taking 2 steps back, 1 foot starting position. So you're not walking back like multiple steps. You just want to be strong, lift off, nice and firm, yeah, and then step back, step back. If you have to shuffle your feet around a little bit, that's okay to get in position. But what's important is that you do it the same way every time. So you want to step back with the same foot each time. If you always step back with your right first, step back with your right first every time, just to get into a good system with your lift off there. So that's how it works. And let's talk a little bit about like when you're getting under the bar, squeezing your shoulder blades together in the back, because what that's going to do is it's going to lift up your traps, and it's going to give you a little shelf to rest the bar on. So when people say it hurts, often that's because they don't have their shoulders squeezed in the back. So they don't have that shelf in their traps, and they don't have any firmness to place it on. So you want to really squeeze your shoulders in the back, pull it into your body. And like we like to call it like a meat shelf, like you're creating like a meat shelf. Linda likes the term meat shelf with your traps. So let me bring it closer and I'll show you what we mean here. So Linda, get back under the bar there one more time.
With my meat
Get your
shelf.
meat shelf ready.
All right, my meat shelf, here we go. Ah.
Perfect. So you're squeezing those shoulders in the back, squeeze them together hard, pull that bar into the body and create lots of tension, and stand for just a second. And then she's stepping back. Perfect. That looks really good. And then if you look at her foot placement, we'll get into that a little bit more, but generally just outside, hip width apart is a good distance with your toes slightly angled out. So that's how you want to get into the starting position. Think about really pulling your body under the bar, kind of wedging yourself under it, creating a lot of tension. And then from there, when you lift off, be a little explosive with your lift off. You don't want a wimpy lift off. Like you want to really pull that bar into your body and be intentional about it. Like you're telling that bar that you're coming for it. You're not just getting under it and like hoping to be able to lift it off. Like you're telling that bar, like, here I come, you're pulling your body into it, you're exploding up. Like you want to be a little dynamic with it, move through.
Definitely, definitely. Like Mary's saying, it's like being really tight on that. Like I always think of, you heard her talking about really thinking about that bar coming across, you're like breaking it. You're thinking about breaking that bar down because these elbows are getting driven down. It's kind of like when we activate our lats, even on a deadlift, you're thinking about that kind of like bull, kind of like making it tight, right? It's like make your whole body nice and tight there. Okay?
Yeah, talk a little bit about like the importance of like your ankles and your glutes.
Oh, yeah,
Performing
sure.
a squat.
So guys, there's no one size fits all when you're doing your squats, right? Because I think a lot of times you may have heard people, and I kind of like came up with, you have to be very upright. There was like you were like a little bit narrower on the stance, you have to be upright. That didn't work for me. I have hips, I have wide hips. So for me, can you imagine I'm trying to keep my feet like close? And now I'm trying to keep my body straight. So you can already see I'm off balance. So simply kind of like adjusting to what feels right for you. You may have a wider hip pattern that's going to give you better ankle mobility as well on this. So adjust it where you need to. Even when I lift it off there, like Mary said, there might be an adjustment where you're like, okay, where are my feet? Where's my width? I tend to like have
Yeah,
a
same on
wider
that.
width on that, and it allows me to kind of go lower. Most of the time where people are feeling kind of like a bit unsteady on their squat is their ankle mobility is not there. It can also be a sign of if you have weak glutes, so that might be the case, but 90% of the time is going to be ankle mobility. If you have like weakened ankle, not as strong ankle mobility, then simply going to heel elevated variation for like, 3-4 months doing it that way, if you're doing back squats, will actually help that. And there's like if you go into the app, we've got like the mobility manual and you can look at that, but it's usually ankle mobility that is the situation. So again, going into a heel elevated variation will help that over time.
And while doing the heel elevated on the side, still be doing your ankle mobility. So eventually you
Yeah.
don't have to do the heel elevated anymore. That's something to think about too. So don't look at it like, and instead just look at it like a temporary fix while working on your ankle mobility. Because eventually you do want to not have the elevated ankle so that you can activate more glutes and you recruit more muscles on them, but you can't always do with the elevated ankles.
Exactly.
So cool. And another thing, like when you get in that starting position, we talked about that. When you pull that bar into your body, once you're in that position, don't move your hands around. If you need to move your hands around, you need to restart. Like you need to restart the whole setup. Because as soon as you move your hands, you're going to lose your lat activation and your core activation. And you're going to, when you lose that tension anywhere in your body, you're going to create like energy leaks. And that's how you lose stability on the squat. And that's how you lose strength. So you want to make sure you're keeping everything in position once you're in that starting position and not like sliding your hands back and forth there. So that's something else to think about when doing them.
Okay.
So Linda's going to pull that bar into her body. She's going to stand up and hold it for a second, let the weight settle, and then step back into her starting position. And then from there, when lowering into the squat, something you want to think about, you're in your starting position. Don't look directly down at the ground. Look a little bit in front of you when doing a squat. Like look in front of you. Obviously, we don't want your neck up or your chin up or anything like that. But look in front of you, because if you're looking down at the ground, it's going to mess with your balance and stability on it. Kind of like if you're walking on a balance beam, like you don't want to look like straight down. You want to look a little in front of you.
And the
it's the
V
same
shelf,
idea.
Mary, the V shelf goes away.
Yeah, you got to keep the meat shelf activated enough. Got to keep the meat shelf up.
And if we're looking up, then guess what's doing to your lower back? So
Yeah.
a lot of times people are like, oh, my lower back. And you're like, oh, stop doing that.
Yeah, we've all seen that at the gym, I'm sure. People doing that. So gotta let someone else in here.
All right, my meat shelf is ready.
So from there, you're going to start the squat, and we say with a very slight break in the hips first. Now, you've seen Eric's videos on this. You're not shooting back like you're at the club and like pushing your butt way back before lowering. Yeah, me and Linda both did that at the same time. So you're just giving it a slight break, and then knees at the same time, going down and forward. So that was good, Linda. We moved in unison there. So
It's synchronized squatting.
and as you're lowering down into there, you really also want to think about hips going back, also knees going forward, and keeping tension in that bar and pulling that bar into you the entire time. So really what you're doing when you're at the bottom, before you come up, pull that bar into you and think about like grabbing the floor with the sides of your feet. So really getting those feet planted into the ground hard on them, just like Linda's doing here. So when I say grab the floor with the sides of your feet, like thinking about, I don't know the name of the bone, but the one like on the outside here, like that is kind of screwing into the ground. And you want to think about like the 3 corners of your feet. So like right here, and right here, all having good contact with the ground while you're doing it too.
Almost like you're doing like with your sumo squat where you're really having a lot of foot contact.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is keep an eye on your knees. Because a lot of times we'll see knees kind of like starting to cave in a little bit. They're coming down in the squat, right? You're here, and then this knee starts coming in. I don't know if you see that. You're like, oh, So make sure you're keeping the quads activating too. And as you're pushing, like Mary's saying, this is all tight, so your knees are not caving in.
Yeah, and when you're thinking about, you know, the outside of your feet pushing into the ground, that's gonna prompt you to push your knees out also, to keep them from caving in. So that's why it's important to think about the outside of your feet staying in contact with the ground and pushing them into the ground, because it will help with that knee cave.
I love that your socks are coordinated with your shirt, Mary.
It was on purpose.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Can everyone see Mary's socks?
Yeah, I was showing them my feet, so they saw them. That's what they want to see. Cool, cool. And then another thing to think about, like, pull the bar into the body, that cue works for some people at the bottom, but another thing you can think about on it, if pulling the bar into your body isn't working, is driving your elbows forward a little bit, because that's going to pull the bar into your body also and activate more of your lats. So give that cue a try too, as far as when you're at the bottom, driving the elbows forward. Now, they're not going to go forward like this because the bar is there and the weight's there. It's just going to be more in your mind mentally that you're doing it. So give that cue a try also, while keeping those shoulders squeezed in the back there.
I can tell you the elbow thing for me is like absolutely a must. That always keeps me on it.
The elbow forward?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I just started that cue this prep and it
Really?
worked well for me.
Yeah.
Another one that's worked well is like knees forward, because I was always so focused at the bottom on just like pushing up that I was losing a lot of like the forward bar path,
Okay.
where you're able to keep the bar like over the center of your foot, which is what you want, and I was staying too far back. So I also think at the bottom, like knees forward when I'm coming up and keeping them forward.
And that's interesting because like I said earlier, that was something that I had originally always been taught with a squat. So when I was trying to relearn it, I was still kind of like, okay, my butt like
Yeah.
this. And just allowing yourself that kind of like natural forward movement. I mean, we're not saying this. You got to keep that core, those lats engaged, right? But just having slightly more kind of like, and like Mary's saying, you're thinking about your knees and find that space that works best for you. You'll know when you find it. It took me a bit of time to kind of like work it out. And then I'm like, that's what the problem was. So again, no one size fits all when you're talking about any of these moves, really. There's going, different leg lengths, different arm length, different torso, different femur lengths. All of that comes into play when you're looking at like some of these movements.
Yeah, and different cues are gonna work at different points in your squat career and your lifting career also. Like sometimes you might need to hear one cue more than the other, or one might click more than the other. So that's why just continuing to relearn things the whole time.
Love it. All right. What else? What else are we thinking? I think that kind of like,
We can talk a little bit about like high bar versus low bar position, because I know that that's something that comes up a lot of times with people. And what I'll say about that is it doesn't need to be given as much attention as people give it with the high bar and low bar position. 90% of people are going to squat like high bar. It's better for beginners. It's safer. It's less stress on your back. So that's what we teach. And when you see us like going over videos and going over form, it's generally the high bar position. I can barely do a low bar squat,
that's
honestly.
too much to think about.
Yeah, low bar is a bit more advanced and it puts a ton more, I don't even want to say advanced. It's more for people who are training, like prepping for a powerlifting meet, who are just training for strength only and who are willing to put a lot of stress on their back, because it puts a ton of stress on your spine. Having the bar lower, and I'll show you the different positions because Linda was in the position. She doesn't think she can do it, but she did it. So
I wouldn't say it felt
yeah, let's show you the low bar position. So do you see here, the bar is below her traps? I'm very impressed, Linda. That's awesome.
Thanks, Mary.
Mobility. The bar is below her traps and it's basically like lining up on her rear delts. So that's a low bar position. And when you do that, you're going to recruit more backs to help with the movement. It's not going to be as leg dominant, and it's also going to put a lot more stress on your spine. So even power lifters train high bar in the off season because it's just less injury risk and it's less stress on the central nervous system and on the spine. So that's why we don't teach a lot of the low bar squat. You can be more explosive with it. It doesn't emphasize good form quite as much. Generally, your hands are gonna be a little bit wider with it also. But if you go into a high bar position, high bar is gonna keep your torso more upright. And you're also gonna use a bit more quads in it also. It's a little bit more quad dominant, but it's less stress on your back, which is the goal. And that's why we teach that way. It also mimics a goblet squat more. So it's similar to a goblet squat. So generally, Linda's making a lot of noise. Generally, the start is, you start with a goblet squat and then the progression next to a barbell squat. So you're going to go goblet to high bar instead of goblet, like right to low bar. So generally, the low bar squat, you're going to have a lot more forward lean also. Can't see me, but you'll have a lot more forward lean, and that's why it's more stress on your back. So in a low bar position, Linda's a lot taller than me. I don't know.
Come on, man. Let's go. Oh, we're on our toe.
Okay, so in a low bar position, you're gonna need to be like leaned forward like this. I didn't even know I could do this. So if I have to, I will. So you're gonna be like leaned forward and you're gonna get a little bit more explosiveness, but that's just gonna tax your spine. So that's why we come up to a high bar position with it more above your traps. That's where you want to be on that. And when you do that, your torso will stay a little bit more upright. So
There we go. All right, Mary.
yeah. Cool. I don't know how much more we have. Let's see if people have questions about squats.
Questions?
About
Concerns
squats.
about your squats? Do we? Do we have any chats? Where's the chats? We're coming over, guys.
There it is.
Hey. Okay.
Okay, looks like there's some stuff.
All right. Let me figure out my.
What is the best way to bail out of a squat when using safety bars?
Ooh, that's
I'll
a
get that set up
good
and show.
question. All right. Hey.
You look at some questions, I'll get that.
Yeah. Jenna likes that you're telling the bar you're coming for it.
Yeah.
It's so true, Jenna.
You gotta talk to
You
it.
gotta talk to it. Kind of like, I think you have to do that with deadlifts too, guys.
You tell
Yeah,
them
it's like, I like to brace for the lift off. Okay, so Jenna is saying brace for the lift off just like regular rep because it feels heavy if you don't and can psych. Yeah, I love that, Jenna. Absolutely. You tell it we're coming. Jessica likes your matching socks as well.
Thank you, Jessica.
Yep.
Jessica got that sense, so I appreciate it.
Let's see here. Courtney, I don't dip under the bar and step back. I back up to it and step forward. I mean, it's not that you can't do that, Courtney. I just feel that it's a little bit more, and it's a little bit more risky. Like, because when you think about it, at the end of that, you're going to be tired, and now you got to go back there and figure out that. So from a safety perspective, I would say kind of like stepping that way versus the other way.
Yeah, and it's going to be harder also to get your shoulders properly squeezed in the back and to get the proper lat activation, because coming under the bar is how you wedge yourself under it. So that's another good reason it's good to do it forward and then just take one step back, other leg, one step back, the other leg.
Yep. All right. Are we bailing?
Let's bail.
Let's bail. Here you go, James.
Can
Here
you
is
still
Coach
bail?
Mary bailing.
Can you see me? Okay.
Yep, we can see you. Let's do this. All right, so Mary now has this barbell loaded. She's got about 300 pounds of weight on there. She has done 20 reps because you know it's all about high reps, high weight, like just no rest breaks whatsoever. That's how we program. All right, Mary.
So now I'm like, oh, I can't stand up. I can't stand up. And then you just like that.
Do it again, Mary.
Oh, Jesus. Hold on.
Come on, Mary.
Safe here.
Bail again. Let's go.
Can you see? Okay. So.
Yep. And James, the other thing too, this is something that I always make sure of with those safety bars. A lot of times I see the safety bars set too low. And as somebody that's just kind of like not anticipating how far down they're going. But if you look here, Mary's got great depth on that, right? And she's not like touching those safety bars. But now she can just do a quick link to it. But if she had those safety bars set down like lower, she's going to be like flat.
You threw it
So
up,
make sure you
or
set
did
your
you spit it
safety
out?
bars. Mary, would you say that's
Yeah.
kind of like mid-thigh level?
I
on
could
your
check.
safety bars? I think so when I'm looking at it. So about mid-thigh?
For me, for my
Yeah.
proportion.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little above mid-thigh.
yeah, there you go.
Or like level.
Yeah, because again, if she set those safety bars like 2 or 3 notches further down, that's going to be really hard to bail out of. Not that you can't, but she might be hurting herself on that. So hopefully that makes sense,
Now, I
James.
know that they're doing box squats right now, so bailing on a box squat.
Mm.
Because the box is there, you can't always get down
Yeah, you
quite as
can.
low. So sometimes you have to set the bars a little higher, but I'll try it.
All right, let's go.
This is something I haven't done now.
All right, Mary is again squatting 400 pounds
Yeah.
now. She's on rep number 30.
I don't know if this is gonna be any different, but. So here, I'm tapping on the box. So yeah, you would want the safety bars a bit higher.
A bit
You're
higher.
not having to dip too much
Yeah.
and kill your back.
So again, that's the box squat
The
variation.
box squat, yeah.
Okay, so a little bit higher on the safety racks versus non-box.
Yeah.
All right, Jenna says maybe you could share some of your favorite cues when pushing out at the bottom and it's heavy as fuck. Well then, Jenna, me personally, I've been doing a lot of work with my quads and my legs. That's really been helping stabilize my knees. I've not got the greatest ankle mobility, so that's something that I've been working on. So for me at the moment, and you heard Mary talking about that, she was mentioning how different cues at different points of your training will kind of like resonate. So for me personally right now, my favorite cue is making sure my quads are engaged and my knees are pushed out.
Yeah,
My
my go-to right now is pulling the bar into my body and driving my knees forward. Like, and that's what I have to think about right now in order to keep tension the entire time, particularly at the bottom, to keep everything braced. I have to really think about that and just push and stand up. Like, I have to fucking tell myself that all the time. Like, I'm doing this big fight, like this is so hard. I'm just like, just stand the fuck up. Like, and
Yeah.
a lot of times that's when it'll click. So like at my meet Saturday, I need you guys to yell that at me. Like during my squats, like just tell me to stand up. Like that's like the number
You
one thing.
know
that we
it.
told.
You got it. I can do that.
Yeah.
All right, Betsy wants to know what the biggest cause for lower back pain is due to squats. Typically we find it's if somebody is not bracing their core properly and not engaging those lats. Like you got to really kind of like watch that, because if as soon as you let go of that, just think your whole spine is just like, I don't want to
Yeah.
say you're like jello, but typically it's your core bracing and the lat activation on that.
Also, if you're trying to lift your hips before your shoulders are rising, you need hips and shoulders to rise at the same time. If you're shooting your hips up too soon, that's going to put some stress on your back.
Good. Leah, hey guys, I feel like I lean really far forward during my squat. Is that okay? It's all relative. You posted a form check last week and you said it looked good. If Mary said it looked good,
Yeah.
it looks good.
I mean, as
Okay.
long as you're not like good morning.
Yeah.
The squat at
Yeah.
the bottom to where you're like, kind of rising through like hip hinge at
Yeah.
the bottom of it. But everything I've seen with yours, Leah, look good. And that's kind of like an old myth with the squats that you need to be like upright, you need to have your chest up. Like if you see some of the most powerful squitters, like strongest power.
Dude, they're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like definitely leaned over. So that's okay.
absolutely. And Leah, that's exactly what I was talking about. That's how I learned, was like more upright. So it took me a long time to understand that I could like lean forward. Eric was like, lean forward. And I'm like, but I'm not allowed to. And, you're good. If Mary says you're good on a form check, if any of us say you're good on a form check, you're good on a form check. Okay. Kevin, Mary has told me a few times to get my elbows tucked in. Is this necessary? Well, Kevin, thanks.
Kevin. Kevin, the reason we say that is because it's going to get you your lats braced more. But there's also, it comes down to mobility. So hands in for some people is going to look different than others. But I would recommend, if you're being told that, to work on some thoracic mobility on the side so that you can get your hands in more and get those lats activated more and your shoulders back more.
Yeah, it just feels super awkward to do that. You know what I mean? My elbows go naturally out. You know what I mean? So I wasn't questioning you, but like just it feels awkward. So
Yeah. No, and I mean, that makes perfect sense, Kevin. It really, really does. But, you know, like we said, you know, play around a little bit with your hand positioning as well and find where that kind of like fits for you, okay?
Thank you.
All right, let's see here. Oh, Courtney's pulling the rack out.
Let's go, Courtney.
I don't know how that sounds, Courtney. Hmm.
Make sure your camera's off.
Oh boy. All right. James says, I feel like I might wedge myself a bit and I feel like I need to fall forward sometimes. Thanks again. Nice.
Yeah, and practice failing with like just the bar. Get used to what it feels like to fail so that if you need to do it on an actual lift, you know what to do.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
not like scared of that. A lot of times that's a really good
Oh,
point.
yeah. I think I
Like,
was talking
really good
to
point.
Aaliyah about that last week. We were
Yeah.
talking about practicing failing. Because then when you do it, you realize it's not even a big deal. The bar, it just presses
Yeah.
there. It's not
Yeah.
a big deal at all.
Yeah, definitely. Joe is saying, Kevin, she used to be like that. It does improve. There's hope,
Yeah.
Kevin.
Oh, yeah. That's normal.
Woo!
I got it coming.
All right, let's see here. Courtney, I don't know why I've been doing it the way I was, but my back hurt this weekend. I feel dumb. You are not dumb. Jesus, we do many strange things around here, Courtney, and it's all a learning process. And I think that's the most important thing. You're here, you're learning, you're open to it. And I think as long as all of us continue to have that growth kind of mindset to learning, you'll be absolutely golden. So no worries there. Tina wants to go over bracing your core.
Sure.
All right, let's do it. Anything for you, Tina? All right, I don't know how we're going to go over that because you know Eric is always talking about pooping, and then he does like weird videos of him naked on his toilet, and that's really. Did you not see that?
I do my best. to steer
Sweet
clear.
mother of God! I'm like, I don't
I
need to
thought
see you,
someone posted a screenshot of it.
dude. We don't need to see our boss this way, okay? All right, brace your core.
Bracing the core, like on a squat. I take it.
Yeah, on a squat, right? All right, here we
So
go.
you want to start braced, like you want that tension going into it. So the bar's here and you want to start with that tension. When we say that, it means pushing your stomach out, squeeze your butt and creating as much tension as possible. I like the soda can analogy, like imagine that your stomach is like a soda can that's unopened and you want it to be really firm.
Come close into that. I want you guys to hear this. So Mary, you don't have to like actually like, you know, be on camera if you don't feel comfortable with that. Mary's comfortable with anything though, right? So unbraced, go and hit your tummy. Now brace your tummy.
That doesn't sound that
You,
different,
it
but I
does
feel
sound
that
that different. You can hear the different noise. And this is something kind of like, you know, I learned from, this sounds so bizarre, playing instruments when I was in high school. I used to play like trumpet. Can you imagine? Yes, trumpet.
I played French horn.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be a band.
And it's like, you kind of like Mary said, a lot of people, when they're thinking about bracing their core, they're thinking about breathing in. And your core is not tight, right? But if you think about filling up, like Mary's talking about, like that soda can, filling up that air, you'll feel it. And now when you touch your stomach, it's tight and you can feel the difference. So think about more kind of like out, okay?
Yeah.
Or air pooping.
So breathing deep in, pushing the stomach out. I even like to swallow a little air. So I breathe deep in and then swallow some air just to push a little bit extra down into there. So that's another way to think about doing it. And you want to have like a good amount of bracing, like I said, going into the lift off, because that's going to make the bar feel lighter. You want to keep that bracing and be nice and braced and then lift off. And then when you step back, you can let a little air out before going into your rep. So, and then do it again. Breathe in and you're like just kind of pushing your butt like you want to take a poop, like it's a concern, like you have to go to the bathroom before doing heavy sets. So you really push out and then keeping that the whole time. So it's pushing your stomach out.
Betsy's like, who's all bracing their core right now, right? Whenever anybody talks about that, we all sit there going, okay.
What am I doing right? So yeah, it's really, I like the soda analogy. You don't want to open that soda can and let the pressure out. You want to keep it trapped in the whole time.
Yep, Jules is practicing. Everybody's sitting there practicing bracing their core as we speak. Good
Yeah.
job, guys. Good job. No, but I mean, and that's pretty much it, guys. Does anybody have anything that they're struggling with in their own squat right now? I mean, Kevin, you shared kind of like, you know, some of yours, which was awesome. Does anybody else have anything for us? Or else I'm gonna make Mary continue to like, you know, shovel my driveway for me.
No, no.
No?
She's got her poor daughter who has COVID doing it out there.
We had COVID last week, Mary. It's been a week. Does this help? What's a good way to increase your depth? Practice.
Yeah, practice, playing around with your stance to a point, like, do I get more depth a little wider? Do I get more depth a little bit more narrow? And increasing your ankle mobility, working on that on the side. Like I still do it sometimes, but there was like a 6-month period where I did it every day.
Really?
Like I was doing ankle mobility. So it takes a little bit of behind the scenes work, like the stuff that isn't sexy, just doing your ankle mobility every day, and that will help with it. What have you done for it?
That, and interestingly enough, practicing air squats as if you are doing the actual barbell squat, like get into position without a barbell. A lot of times what we find is people are more nervous than anything. So you getting used to that actual movement, that actual movement pattern, trusting yourself with that, and being like, all right, now I'm just adding on a bar. Okay, now I'm adding on some weight. So practicing the movement pattern can be super beneficial as well.
Yeah, and someone
And see, yeah, like
said calf raises in between
Yeah.
sets, that works. Just doing something like this in between sets, like getting a stretch in your ankles,
Yep.
keeping your heel down, that can work too. So there is some work you can do like on the spot in between sets too, and doing warm-up sets for your reps, definitely.
yeah, and I mean, you know, any kind of like hardware in the foot, ankle, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, calf raises.
Something special. Ankle mobility.
Yeah.
There's inside the vault, of course, in the mobility manual, there's a whole section on ankles, and that is all you need to succeed with ankle mobility.
Oh, you need to
All you need
succeed. I love it. All right. And yeah, you know, Tina, it's just time practice. You know, like I said, you've got that hardware in your ankle. I got a little hardware in my foot that sometimes is like giving me joy. And Miranda, you're right. Like that's why I'm saying kind of like going through the movement of like doing it over and over again without weight can be super beneficial, because Mary touched on it earlier too. Telling yourself, just stand up. You can do this, just go into it. But if you've always got that little kind of like doubt in your head, it makes it very hard to commit to your lift. You have to commit to your lift. And that's with all of your lifts, especially like the big compound movements. You got to just like go for it. Okay. Let's see here. Had to train through holding my counter in the kitchen. I love that, Talisha. I love that. When do you start with a weightlifting belt, or do you need one?
I brought mine today.
She did bring hers today. There's no hard and fast rule to that. There really isn't. It's typically, and you'll hear Eric talk about it as well, it's like when the risk outweighs the benefits, right? Where you're like, okay, this is getting a little bit kind of like, I know I can lift more, my legs are stronger than that, but I want to protect my back. There used to be kind of like a train of thought where they're like, oh, when you're doing double your body weight, and it's like,
that's all relative to the person.
totally. Yeah. The most important thing I would say is make sure that you are 200% comfortable with your core bracing and your lat engagement before you wear a belt. That's my biggest thing.
Yeah, because it's going to prompt you to brace your core better, but in order to do it better, you have to know how to do it well in the first place.
Yep. How do you wear your belt, Mary? Glad you asked. Hold on. Mary's going one moment, please.
My Wawa bag.
I feel your Wawa bag?
That's what I keep my weightlifting belt in.
All right. So Mary, as you can see, we've got a Vanna White situation going here.
They see me better. So yeah, it just goes like my belly button's like right here. So it goes up well above that and just like below my lower 2 ribs there. So that's where it goes.
And then how
Kind of like above your waist, like definitely above your hips. You don't want it touching your hips at all. So kind of just like in the center of your torso here, like
your natural
between-
waist.
Yeah, natural raise between belly button and rib cage. What was next, Linda?
And then how tight do you have it, Mary? I mean,
Very
you know,
tight.
yeah, there you
Yeah.
go.
Make it very tight. So. Yeah,
Okay.
it's gotten tighter in the past month, but we won't talk about that. So, wanna be able to, like,
Blocks.
you wanna be able to put fingers in there,
Uh-huh.
so that's it, but those fingers are tight, like, it's not easy, I definitely can't fit my whole hand in,
Yeah.
so it's
Do you
tight.
remember when Eric got stuck in his belt that time?
My belt, when we were
That
working,
was
he wore this
hilarious.
when we were working out with, in Tara's gym, in Jersey.
It was awesome, guys. He was stuck. He couldn't get out of the belt and he
hyperventilating.
was hyperventilating. And what was really awesome is we weren't helping. We
No.
were just laughing because that's what we do.
I've gotten stuck in this belt the first time I wear it, and it is a really nervous feeling.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, I can't
You're
get
like,
up,
I
I
can't
can't
get
breathe, I
out.
can't breathe. Yeah.
And there are different belts as well. So if you look at Mary's belt here, hers is very fancy. It's got kind of like that whole contraption there. You've also got the belts, like you'll see Eric has a Pioneer belt. So it's like, yours is like a different
Yeah, mine has the lever.
class. Yeah, yours has
different
got a
class.
lever thing. So there's different variations. And
They have buckle belts.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like the buckle belt.
Yeah, I had buckle for years.
I like that one. So yep, there you go. All right, guys. If nobody has any other questions, so concludes form checks
Yeah.
with Mary and Linda. If you like this, let us know and we'll do more of them. We can do all the compound move. We can do anything you want. So
Sucks, let
if
us
you,
know.
yeah, if you thought it sucked, let us know, but maybe, you know, nicely, because we get really, really sad sometimes. But no, seriously, if you find this helpful, let us know. We'll definitely do more of it. And bring your questions, bring your forum checks, keep them coming. We love to see it. And other than that, just keep on kicking some ass. All
Yeah,
right.
I would love a deadlift one. That would be great.
Oh,
Sure.
okay. Conventional and sumo, or either or.
Hey, you gotta-
I mean,
gotta go
honestly,
girl here and conventional here, so we're set.
it doesn't matter. I just really, I'm trying to get better at those. And so I would
Okay.
love that. Yeah. So.
You got it. We love deadlifts around here, and RDLs are a great
I
one,
hate 'em.
Tina. So yeah, and bench, we can absolutely do that. So yeah, we'll definitely do that for you guys. We'll put that into
We'll get
the
'em on our calendar.
for sure.
We'll have a meeting right after this.
Yes, a meeting. All right, guys, have a great Tuesday. I had to think what day it was. I
This
never,
week, yeah.
ever. Anyway, all right, guys, we'll
Thank
see you
you.
later. Thanks. Bye.
And
Is it recording?
when